Hello dear students, once again welcome to the weekly current affairs session. We are in the third week of September and today we are discussing current affairs from September 16th to September 23rd. As you are aware of these sessions, we divide the entire set of topics that have happened in 1 week. The topics that are relevant from a UPSC exam point of view into 2 sections, which are prelims important topic and your mains important topic, and we comprehensively discuss this. Okay. Now, to start off with, from your prelims section, the first topic that we have to discuss is about the dung beetle. So, as I had told you, with each topic, I would tell you, I hope those who are watching this session for the second or third or time, you are making your notes by now, because there's no excuse for that. Okay. Even if you're watching these sessions, unless you are making notes for yourself and revising it on your own, these sessions are not going to be there in your mind by the time your exam approaches. When it comes to this topic specifically, I've told you that under each topic, I'll tell you the section which you have to write this down into. Dung beetle falls under your environment section. Dung beetle falls under your environment section. So what do we have to discuss in this and what? Let's have a look at it. See, this specific animal, the specific insect, it was there in news, and it has been there in news because primarily there has been discussions of the nature of what exactly does it do. There have been discovery of new species, etc. Obviously, the name of the new species you do not need to learn by heart or anything. But at that point is where I noticed, maybe we can have a discussion on what exactly is the role of this species in your ecosystem. What exactly does it do? These organisms are called as tunnelers. So, for example, you have certain animals which are called as burrowers, where, they dig deep into the ground and they create a shelter over there and they have all their activities with relation to their burrow. This is a tunneler. Okay, so what they try or what they do is, for what happens is, these, as you can see, dung beetle, it primarily is, the ecosystem of it is associated with your animal excreta. Okay. Now, what they do is, they bury large quantities of cattle dung beneath the dung part to provide food for their larvae. So, what happens is, if you have an area of cattle dung over there, this dung beetle, not on the surface of it, they go into the cattle dung and somewhere in the depths of it, they bury their, the larvae. Larvae means the younger ones, the eggs of this species, and they keep it protected over there. And even when they hatch, what's going to happen? They're going to have enough nutrition from the dung. So think about it. Its entire ecosystem is this animal excreta. So it has the ability to, when it moves into these dungs, it tunnels into these dungs. First thing that happens is, this part or this piece or this area of excreta, it gets fragmented. Okay. Now, those who've been there in the environment class know that for any decomposition process, there are several stages. There is fragmentation, there is leaching, there is mineralization, there is humification, etc. The first process of any kind of decomposition is fragmentation. That means anything which is a large chunk, if it's a leaf that's fallen out from a tree, it has to be broken down into smaller parts. Got it. So anything that you have to break or anything that has to finally be decomposed, it has to get broken down into pieces. Got it. Now, when it has to be broken down into pieces, here in this case, when it comes to any kind of dung or animal excreta which is there, this beetle does that part of it. First thing is, it will, when it tunnels into it, this whatever is the excreta, it gets broken because you are making parts into it. It gets broken into smaller parts. And in those smaller parts is where these animals lay their eggs. and they hatch. Once they hatch, what's again going to happen? This dung is what is eaten by their smaller ones, which means what? From doing the fragmentation process to breaking it down into simpler parts and getting consumed or eating that, what is happening? The decomposition process is kick-started by these animals. So, it processes and decomposes cow dung by feeding, breeding and nesting in it. And once they do all of this, obviously, so what's going to happen? They are, this dung beetle feeds on this and they excrete, and what's going to happen? That goes into the soil. So it enhances nutrient cycling, improves soil aeration, and it is also aiding in secondary seed dispersal. Okay, how is secondary seed dispersal done? So, for example, what happens is, here, if at all in this excreta, if the animal has eaten some plant and there is the seed of it that is still not broken down, that seed is now released to be in touch with your soil. It also helps to control parasites. If the dung beetle doesn't do its work, this animal excreta becomes a ground for other kind of parasites, like your lice and leeches, different kinds of animals or worms that can be dependent on these areas. So what happens is, so it can control the parasites, and if there is any parasite in the dung, that also gets consumed by the dung beetle, which means on both ends, the parasites or anything that might have been inside the cow's body and got excreted through the dung can also be eaten up by the dung beetle. So just have this point. These guys are actually very well, or it's like basically they do if at all they are there in an area, the cleanup of that entire ecosystem would be heavily reliant on the dung beetle species. So I hope now you know the relevance of these new species of dung beetle and everything that's getting discovered. So it's these parts or these importance that you have to keep in mind. Moving forward, we have to talk about Basar. So what or who is Basar? Now here it is not a who, it's primarily a government scheme. So first of all, put this under the section of your government scheme. And what is Basar? Bharat Startup Knowledge Access Registry. Bharat Startup Knowledge Access Registry. This is something that is being created by the Department of Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade, DPIIT, under the Startup India program. What are they trying to do? They are trying to build the largest digital repository or registry for the stakeholders within a startup ecosystem. For example, what does it mean? See, now for example, you are interested in maybe making a jam as a industry. You want to create jam of different fruits and you want to explore the innovation and everything in it. But you do not know where to start. It's going to probably be a manufacturing startup that is there. So now what you can do is, if you enter into, once this is fully functional and you enter into Basar portal, what's going to happen is, you will have previous startup agencies that are working in that same field. Maybe it might not be jam exactly, but food processing, etc. What are the different, for example, if you are entering into that, what are the different kinds of regulations you will be met with? What are the different projects that the government can aid you with? What are the different benefits that you can get from the government? Do you have any subsidy? Do you have any other funding mechanism, etc.? All of these information that you would need from different stakeholders. So government is a stakeholder, consumer is a stakeholder, previous startup owners are a stakeholder, your competition is also part of this. So what happens is, all of them, all the information surrounding this will be available at one stop, which is your Basar. Okay, and once created, it will be the world's largest digital registry for stakeholders within a startup ecosystem. So I hope that is clear. Next is a much interesting topic, I would say. It's called as organ on chip. Organ on chip. Organ on chip, primarily you can put it under your science and tech section. Okay, and in your science and tech section, what exactly is the idea of organ on chip? I'll just show you a picture over here. See, when you have to try different medicines or the effect of certain drugs on your body, the effect of certain vaccines on your body, etc. Most of the time what happens, you try it on other animals, you do maybe few amounts of human trials, and then finally it's given into the human body. But obviously each human body is also different. Like, see, maybe it might not have shown up in your human trials, but what if I have some kind of very specific feature where maybe when I am having the drug, I am having some kind of an after effect or any kind of a side effect, which means that maybe if I had some mechanism to maybe try out that drug onto myself without getting affected by it, I would have known about the consequences of it. Maybe, for example, if this drug is targeting my lungs or maybe drug is targeting my liver, what if I'm able to just see the impact of it on a lab level, on a laboratory level? How do I make it possible? And this is where they have come up with an idea called as organ on chip. Organ on chip is basically a technology that says you decide, or it's a technology that is designed to mimic the exact dynamic functions of human organs in a controlled environment, which is your lab, offering a more accurate platform for drug testing. This is primarily for drug testing. How are you doing it? You integrate cells derived from a human body with a well-defined in vitro biological environment, that is again the lab, and you place it onto a, so you are having what all, it's consider this like a chip, a microchip or something. Here you have the cells extracted from you. You also have the different markers that show the impact of it. And all of this is on a small chip. That means, for example, if I want to test the effect of a drug on my body, on a specific organ of my body, I just need to contribute some cells of my organ onto this chip and they can do the testing in the lab. Why? Because each cell in your body will mimic because the cells form tissues and tissues form organs. So if the cell is I'm placing the drug and the cell is behaving in a weird manner, what is going to happen? I would know that this is going to be having some kind of an impact on my body also, instead of directly subjecting myself to that entire drug. Okay, now that's one thing. This is drug testing, and this previously also you should have known when Ebola outbreak was happening, outbreak in your African countries was happening, and they needed to quickly test if someone was having Ebola or not. They even created some, you take some samples from someone's mouth in someone's area and then you quickly test it, and at that point also they had introduced something called as an organ on chip. So you can use it for drug testing, for disease detection, etc. Okay, so now it's getting a lot of importance over here. Now, in India, what has happened is, India has now amended the new Drugs and Clinical Trials Rules 2019 to permit the use of human organs on chips and other NAMs prior to and in conjunction with animal testing when evaluating new drugs. So, this is the reason why we are discussing this right now. So, organs on chip is not, obviously it's a new idea. It has come about in the last 10-15 years or so. But in India, now they have given, go ahead for human organs on chips. Okay, the animal organs on chips was already there. The human organs on chips is something that has now been given permission in India. So now just look at this diagram to get a little bit more clarity. What has happened over here is you are taking up, now for example, what if in my body, I need to know the effect of that medicine on my liver, on my lungs, on my intestine, etc. I just need to take multiple cells from each of these and put it onto the chip. Understand? So I can create interconnected organ chips. I can create single organ chips also, where I'm just taking the cells from one particular organ and putting it on the chip. Got it? So organs on chip or human organs on chip can be used to assess the impact of drugs on humans without actually having complete full-fledged human field trials which are there. And also along with it, in case of disease detection also, you can expand the usage of it. So I hope this entire concept is clear to you. Moving forward, we have to discuss a little bit about cellulitis. Cellulitis, again, it comes under your S&T section. What exactly is a cellulitis? Cellulitis is a bacterial skin infection. Now, it's seen, again, it's something that happens on the skin where you have scabs, where you start losing your skin, and primarily what happens is there's some kind of a, you start seeing the underneath layer of your skin. So, it's a skin infection. It's caused by Streptococcus and Staphylococcus bacteria, which live on the skin's surface. It's very common amongst those working in agriculture, construction, people prone to cuts, bruises and other injuries. Again, cellulitis was there in news because you are seeing a rampant the skin infection sort of a condition for a lot of people in your construction related activities nowadays, and this is the reason why it was there in news. So we're just discussing this because cellulitis sounds like a natural process, but again it's a bacterial skin infection. The next thing I want to discuss with you is it's going to be there in news at the center of a major a drug battle sort of a thing. So I'll give you the context of it, but first let's discuss this current affair in hand. This is actually lenacapavir. Lenacapavir is the drug against HIV. It's a drug against HIV, and this is where you need some context over here. Now, when it comes to lenacapavir, what has happened is the drug primarily deals with the fact that when you have a virus, the virus has an area surrounding it called as its protein cover. Okay, so this protein cover is what this drug tries to break. Once this protein cover is broken, what happens is the genetic material of the drug will not, of the virus is not able to survive by itself, and then what happens is it gets destructed. So this is what lenacapavir is trying to do. Now, as you are aware, it's not the first. There are a lot of drugs in the world that have tried to solve the HIV problem. Solve HIV in the sense what? What do we do currently for HIV? When it comes to your HIV virus, what it does is it interferes with the immune system. It makes the immune system weak. And because the immune system is weak, you are more susceptible to other diseases. And most of the time, these other diseases like maybe TB or pneumonia, etc. actually has a much fatal effect on your body, something that could not have been there earlier. Why? Because normally when TB, you have something entering into your body, you have the immune system working against it. But here the immune system is compromised. So what happens is, you're going to have these different infections affecting your body in a much rampant manner. What is the treatment currently for HIV? Currently, there are no drugs that have been seen to cure HIV completely. But what you try to do is something called as a retroviral therapy. In retroviral therapy, what happens is you constantly flush in your body, you put into your body new immune cells or immune system cells, so that you know whatever is the existing affected cells, even if they are dying off, what happens is your immune system is in place. So this is how people who have HIV somehow prolong their life right now. But I hope you understand, when I'm saying it's a drug against HIV, it's not just prolonging your life with HIV, but trying to cure the entire HIV virus, or you're having the disease, that disease gets completely cured, is the idea of lenacapavir. Okay. Now, obviously, it's a drug against HIV. It's seen, it's not like a therapy thing where you will have, you will live with the disease, but you will just have a prolonged life. Here, they're trying to cure the complete thing. And as I told you, how are they trying to cure? They're going to try to, the drug actually goes and attacks the protein covering of the virus, and it somehow, and in this manner, it gets killed. Till now, it's all the technical details about it. So, it disrupts the HIV capsid protein structure, safeguards, and then what happens is, because it does not have this structure, the virus is not able to replicate, and the inside contents of it will also get affected, and the virus cannot propagate. Now, the news for lenacapavir started sometime in last 1 year or so, where obviously it's a drug against HIV. It's FDA approved, so it's there out in the world. You have a lot of countries that have tried using it, everything. Now, coming to India, last year or so, a certain private, you must be knowing, Dr. Reddy Chemicals, Pharmaceuticals, which is there, they entered into an agreement with the company that created lenacapavir, which is called as Gilead or Gilead, okay? And they said that we are now, in this collaboration, we want to bring lenacapavir to India, because obviously, India is one country where you have large populations which are HIV affected. So, they can get the cure. Okay. So, this is the first thing that came. So, they wanted to introduce this. This, in the 3rd week of September, this becomes a important current affair. Why? Because now if you want to introduce it in India and you want to have your patent and everything approved over here, you need to be part of the Indian legal system. So, you have to apply for patent under the Indian law. So, obviously, Gilead and Reddy Pharmaceuticals, they tried applying for a patent for lenacapavir in India. Now, this is where the catch is. Why? Because the Indian Patent Granting Agency, they said that lenacapavir is not drastically different from the previous HIV drugs that have been there in the market, and thus they have refused to give the patent to lenacapavir. They are still in negotiations. They are having judgments and counter judgments and everything. But as of now, as we speak right now, the patent has been withheld on lenacapavir. So, if the patent is withheld, what is going to happen? They might not be able to sell this drug. They will be able to sell, but they will not get a lot of money that could come as part of its patent payments. This is the reason why in this week we are discussing this, but I want you to understand this has been there in news and it will keep being there in news in this patent context again. So, just keep the reason why we have refused it, because see, lenacapavir, the name of the drug and everything is new, but the Indian Patent Granting Agency feels that the active ingredient that is now making lenacapavir act against your HIV virus is the same that was there in the previous drugs. So, it's not a new innovative drug that has to be given patent, and that is the reason why they have not granted patent for it. Understand? So, I hope this part is clear. The next thing we have to discuss is an area called as your Tian Shan range. The Tian Shan range is has been in news because it's one of those areas where you are observing the massive melting of glaciers. And obviously, where is this thing coming under? You can put it under geography, which is places in news. Or because of the reason that I just mentioned to you, you can even put it under environment section. Okay. What exactly or where exactly it is? Tian Shan is generally called as the water tower of Central Asia. Okay, it's called as a water tower of Central Asia because this area has so massive numbers of glaciers, and those glaciers have been servicing all the major rivers and everything that have risen from this area. So it's a very solid reservoir of fresh water resources. Okay, so these glaciers over the time, and it's basically seen in your this Tian Shan area when you look at it. So there is, I want you to understand the range. You have a Tian Shan range, and then you have the surrounding area of it. The surrounding area has much larger country scope. The Tian Shan range is primarily in Kyrgyzstan and northwestern China. Okay, now what has happened over here? Here you are seeing that your glaciers are receding. Glaciers are receding primarily means that the glaciers are melting at a much faster rate. But obviously when they melt, the water is coming into the rivers. But if they melt and they finish off, what is going to happen? These rivers in a span of next 100 years might even dry up because you do not have glaciers servicing these rivers. So I just wanted to discuss this because Tian Shan, just a mountain range area where there is massive receding of glaciers. In fact, in comparison to even Himalayas, here the glaciers are receding at a much faster rate. So if they give you Himalayas, Andes and Tian Shan and everything, now you know it's Tian Shan which is having the massive receding of glaciers in such a way that the rivers are over here are expected to dry up in the next hundreds of years or so. Moving forward, we have to talk a little bit about the BiorRide scheme. BiorRide scheme, again, you can put it under your government schemes. Okay. What is your BiorRide scheme? BiorRide scheme is biotechnology, research, innovation and entrepreneurship development. Okay. Biotechnology, research, innovation and entrepreneurship development. As you are aware, we had talked about this in 2 previous weekly sessions also. India is now trying to go much high when it comes to biomanufacturing. Okay, biomanufacturing, creating different components. Now, earlier we discussed Organon Chip. Right. So you cannot say, okay, yeah, I'll take the cells and then every part of this is not done by one unit itself. So the cells have the extraction, you need certain technology for it. When you have to place it on a chip, you need the correct dimensions, you need the correct substrate on it. All of these are done by another unit. So what happens over here is, now I just took the example of Organon Chip because we just spoke about it. Nevertheless, this is a program that is now considered or that is run by your S&T ministry, S&T department, primarily focused on biotechnology research and development, industrial entrepreneurship and development. So these are all things that you know, but my important point over here is it's focusing on biomanufacturing and biofoundry. Again, previous to this, we had talked about the Bio 3 program, Bio I3 program, which is there, where we are trying to have massive innovation in different aspects when it comes to education, research, development, etc. So it's just going to be one more scheme that is going to contribute to this particular policy. Okay, the details of it still are in the works of it. Right now, what we have available is BiorRide will have 3 major components, and these are your 3 major components of your BiorRide program. Moving forward, we have to now talk about the Global Cyber Security Index. Okay.